An extremely significant archaeological discovery has been unearthed in Jerusalem.
The Temple Mount Sifting Project is an archaeological adventure whose purpose is to find the empirical proof of what was atop the Temple Mount thousands of years ago.
Beneath the Temple Mount, the holiest ground on earth, something ancient awaits, in chambers, tunnels, and carvings cut into stone. For millennia, they were hidden from human eyes, but not from machines. Artificial intelligence has pierced the Earth's silence, uncovering evidence that could blur the line between history and prophecy. Prophets once warned of a sign buried beneath Jerusalem, a revelation that would come when knowledge increased. And now, as AI sees through stone itself, one question remains: were we ever meant to find it?
Jerusalem might be one of the most excavated places on Earth. But there's one place where one needs to be extra careful. The Temple Mount compound, also known as the Haram al-Sharif.
The Temple Mount is more than a hill of ancient stones. It's the heartbeat of Jerusalem, where belief and memory share the same dust, home to sacred sites from the three biggest religions in the world. As the muezzin's call drifts across the old city, echoing off limestone walls that have seen prophets, kings, and conquerors come and go, pilgrims press their palms to the rock, eyes closed, whispering centuries of hope into its cracks. For Jews, this is Mount Moriah, where Abraham raised the knife over Isaac, and where Solomon built the first temple to house the presence of God. For Christians, it's where Jesus taught and wept, foretelling the fall of that same temple, that not one stone would remain upon another. And for Muslims, it's the place of the Prophet Muhammad's ascension to heaven, crowned by the golden dome of the Rock and adorned by Al-Aqsa, the world's second oldest mosque. The Temple Mount is 35 acres of tension where faith, politics, and prophecy still collide in the heat and dust of the desert, but underneath the glittering dome and dusty streets lies something deeper. There are centuries of buried architecture, sealed passageways, and half-remembered legends. Ancient writings hint that under the Temple Mount are chambers where priests once hid sacred treasures. Not only that, it is also where, according to some interpretations of Daniel and Revelation, certain sealed things were placed until the end of days. No one is allowed to dig there. Not Jordan, not even Israel, not anyone. The place cannot be studied in that manner. The ground is too holy and too volatile. The last time archaeologists tried, riots erupted across the old city.
But an illegal construction project 20 years ago opened the door to some major discoveries.
And for a long, long time, the mysteries beneath the mount remained untouched, forbidden to every living soul, unseen by human eyes, and untouchable by even the most powerful governments. Until now, because AI doesn't need to dig. And when researchers combined artificial intelligence with deep penetration radar to scan below the mount without lifting a single stone, they were expecting to just map tunnels and rock formations, but they got something else instead. What they have stumbled upon is something that echoes prophecy itself. At first, the AI scans looked ordinary. Nothing to see here, folks. The AI practically said, just faint outlines of familiar tunnels, old drainage channels, and remnants of what British officer Charles Warren mapped in the 1860s. But as AI processed the data, pattern by pattern, layer by layer, something wasn't quite adding up. While Warren's maps showed a handful of crude tunnels, the AI scans showed hundreds of them, from intersecting corridors and chambers to vaults cut into solid bedrock with precision that surpassed modern construction. There were perfect right angles, vaulted ceilings, and smooth walls. Even complex drainage systems aligned along a single geometric grid. This was mathematics that should have been out of the reach of ancient peoples. Archaeologists were stunned. Bronze Age tools couldn't carve like this. Even Roman engineering couldn't maintain this level of dexterity over such vast distances. Some of these passages were smooth to within millimeters, tighter tolerances than modern subway tunnels.
Amir from the cave, you hear me?
I hear you.
Come quickly, we've discovered amazing things.
But the contradictions went deeper. Historical records speak of Solomon's stables, Hezekiah's tunnel, and the hidden chamber beneath the Holy of Holies. Yet the AI found voids that didn't match any of those known structures. Odd, isn't it? The scientists thought so too. When they overlaid the 3D scan with biblical maps that many Christians would be familiar with, they noticed something strange. Several of these voids lined up perfectly with locations that were mentioned in apocalyptic scriptures such as the Eastern Gate, the Gihon Spring, There was even a section of bedrock there known in Hebrew tradition as Even HaShatia, the foundation stone, believed to be the very center of the world, the actual birthplace of all creation. Was this all a coincidence, or was it a sign? Because prophecy says that in the last days, knowledge shall increase, and that which was sealed shall be revealed. And AI was revealing a lot, but this newfound knowledge wasn't just a shock to archaeology, it threatened to bridge the gap between faith and fact. Would it now be possible for science to predict when exactly the end times will happen? And when the team expanded their scans, they found something that stopped them cold. Something that shouldn't exist. When the AI models finished processing the last data from the Temple Mount scans, no one in the lab said anything for nearly a minute. Silence gripped the researchers, and they were unable to speak for what felt like ages. It seemed like everyone in the room was collectively holding their breath. No one moved a muscle. They couldn't believe their eyes, or their instruments. Saying that what they had discovered was huge would be a complete understatement. What appeared on their screens wasn't a simple, ordinary tunnel network. It was an entire architectural blueprint buried beneath the city. A sprawling geometric system of chambers and shafts, perfectly symmetrical, stretching hundreds of meters beneath the dome of the rock. At first, the team assumed it was a glitch, a computational artifact. But when they cross-referenced it with magnetometry readings and ancient seismic records, the anomalies aligned exactly. These weren't random voids or geological quirks. They were designed. The data pointed to a complex built in multiple layers, descending in a spiral-like structure, a design strangely similar to early depictions of Solomon's temple, except on a far grander scale.
And that will be probably the ashes that'll be used more directly on the building of the temple.
Some of the walls reflected strange electromagnetic fields, suggesting materials not typically found in ancient construction such as alloys that shouldn't have existed in that period. When AI imaging reconstructed the possible interior, it showed large halls with stone columns and patterns etched in repeating numeric ratios. These ratios correspond exactly to the so-called God code, the same Fibonacci sequence and golden mean found in DNA, galaxies, and even the layout of the Great Pyramid. But what truly shook the researchers more than the geometry itself was the heat signature. Thermal scans revealed one chamber that emitted a faint, constant energy pulse. It wasn't electrical, at least not in the modern sense, but it was biothermal and almost organic. The temperature inside that sealed room never fluctuated, even when the rest of the subsurface cooled. Something down there was stable, active. And then came the text. One of the AI's image recognition subroutines, trained to read degraded inscriptions, detected markings along the digital model's walls. When enhanced, the engravings matched Paleo-Hebrew, an ancient script dating back over 20,500 years. Some of the phrases translated roughly to, "Here rests the ark. The voice spoke once and is sealed until the appointed time. Do not touch the fire that sleeps." The last line was repeated 3 times across different walls, almost like a warning, or a dare. Archaeologists debated whether it was authentic or a later addition, but the phrasing, the letter forms, even the erosion patterns matched what would be expected from extreme antiquity. That's when speculation turned to something many feared to even whisper: the Ark of the Covenant, long thought lost or mythologized, could be entombed somewhere within that structure. Could. Nothing was for certain. Yet. The Ark, described in the book of Exodus, was said to radiate divine energy so intense it could kill anyone who touched it unprepared. The pulse that the AI detected, that faint rhythmic energy beneath the mount, matched descriptions of the voice of God in ancient accounts, a continuous vibration, a hum like thunder and rushing waterfalls. Immediately, governments did what they do best. They restricted access to the data. Within 48 hours, even the Vatican's resident historians requested the imaging logs, and Israeli authorities sealed off nearby excavation zones, citing infrastructure risk.
The Temple Mount is in our hands.
The AI developers were asked to sign non-disclosure agreements. Some of them refused. 2 resigned and said that their reason for doing so was spiritual unease. To no one's surprise, the fragments of the data set leaked, enough for independent analysts to confirm that what the AI saw was not an illusion. Others were more cautious. They argued that human pattern recognition, amplified by machine learning, could be creating a false image, a mirage made of math, if you will. But what if it wasn't? What if, for the first time in history, we had just found proof that the world's oldest religious object was far from a myth?
The Temple Mount is the soul, heart, and spirit of the Jewish people.
It was a device, still active, but located under the most contested ground on the planet? If true, it wouldn't be a revelation at all. It would be the beginning of the end, a countdown clock located deep in the foundations of holy ground. The shock of the discovery spread faster than any official statement could contain. Within days, churches, mosques, temples, and forums across the world were ablaze with the same question. Had artificial intelligence just proven the impossible? For some, it was a miracle, long-awaited proof that the sacred texts were not mere allegory, but maps, encoded with divine architecture. Pastors in America called it the trumpet before the second coming. Jewish scholars debated whether this was the long-foretold restoration of the temple. In Mecca, imams urged caution, warning that technology can mimic the sacred. Across Europe, cathedrals filled with people praying for discernment. But others only saw danger and a deception dressed as revelation. What if AI, in its hunger for pattern, had simply fabricated one? Was it possible the machine had found something only because it wanted to find it? A few theologians called it a digital Tower of Babel. Once again, humanity was climbing too high, too fast, and there were bound to be consequences. Still, the evidence was hard to ignore. The harmonic frequencies detected beneath the mount seemed to pulse with a bizarre precision, echoing prophecies found in both the Old and New Testaments. Isaiah had spoken of treasures hidden in darkness, and Ezekiel described a voice from the temple that would shake the nations. The book of Revelation warned of an object sealed until the time of the end. Now those words felt less metaphorical and more like coordinates, signposts pointing the way to the end. Religious communities fractured under the strain of interpretation. Some believers proclaimed that the Ark had awakened, heralding the dawn of a new covenant. Others insisted it was a satanic illusion, a test to divide the faithful from the deceived. Social media was filled with side-by-side images of biblical passages and AI scan data. People live-streamed vigils, while skeptics accused them of turning sacred mystery into spectacle. Meanwhile, in academic circles, panic grew. Scholars of archaeology, theology, and physics found themselves united by one quiet, terrifying thought. What if the algorithm had unearthed something not meant to be found? Maybe the space beneath the Temple Mount was never meant to be studied.
You will explain a few more things, and we will go out just beneath the Temple Mount.
Not through digging, but not through ground-penetrating radar either. But just as they began to pull back, another anomaly surfaced. A perfect repeating frequency of 7.83 Hz buried deep in the scan data, too precise to be geological and too structured to be digital noise. An emergency meeting was convened at the Hebrew University where experts debated if further scans would destabilize the already fragile foundations of the mount. Every signal we send down there could awaken resonance patterns that have slept for millennia, one engineer warned. If it's an energy field and not a structure, disturbing it could have planetary consequences. The Vatican issued a carefully worded statement. The Church reminds the faithful that mysteries of divine origin are not for technology to uncover. Yet behind closed doors, the Pontifical Academy of Sciences quietly requested access to the raw AI data. They wanted to know if the pattern resembled anything from their archives, particularly one file marked Arc Codex 77b, a sealed study from 1953. Even secular scientists felt the tremor. If this structure was real, it would rewrite not just theology, but physics. It implied that ancient civilizations understood frequencies beyond modern comprehension and possessed knowledge that could, theoretically, interact with the planet's electromagnetic field. One physicist called it proof that the ancients engineered faith as a form of energy. The emotional stakes grew unbearable. Pilgrims began flooding Jerusalem, convinced they were witnessing the fulfillment of prophecy. Police had to barricade the Temple Mount to prevent mass gatherings. Conspiracy forums erupted with claims that governments were hiding the truth to prevent panic or the apocalypse. Through it all, the AI's output continued to hum with that same unearthly frequency, as if the data itself were alive. And so, the world found itself divided, as always, between believers who saw salvation, skeptics who saw illusion, and scientists who saw a puzzle too dangerous to solve. But one question hovered above them all, unanswered and unstoppable. If the discovery was true, if beneath that sacred ground there truly lay an artifact that bridges heaven and earth, then humanity had just stepped into the final chapter. The conflict now sits frozen beneath the stones of the Temple Mount. Faith versus science, belief versus evidence. Do they always have to be at war? On one side stand the believers who claim that God has once again chosen an unexpected instrument, not a prophet or a priest, but a machine, to reveal what was hidden since the dawn of time. To them, this is no coincidence. The timing, the frequency, even the numbers, all align too perfectly. So it has to be the fulfillment of prophecy, the whisper before the trumpet, proof that in the 21st century, God has chosen another medium to speak through. Many of them even sold their belongings, convinced that the rapture would happen very soon. Opposite them stand the skeptics, scientists, historians, and archaeologists who see something far more human. To them, this is not revelation, but repetition, another moment where humanity's reach has exceeded its reverence. The Israeli government has since banned all further excavation, sealing the mount under preservation orders. The AI servers were dismantled, but the data remains. The patterns, the maps, the frequencies continue to circulate in the digital ether, shared and encrypted like scripture reborn in code. Still, the questions refuse to die. Was this divine design or human delusion?
Ancient, mysterious tunnel running 40 feet underground the old city of Jerusalem.
Did we finally glimpse the face of God beneath the soil, or just the reflection of our own hunger for meaning? And yet, the resonance beneath Jerusalem still hums, 7.83 hertz, steady as a heartbeat. Scientists call it background noise. Believers call it the voice of the ark. A machine peered where prophets once warned not to look. And now the world waits, holding its breath for whatever rises next from the silence. Did AI just map out patterns where there are none, or trigger the beginning of the end? Let us know your thoughts down below. See you next time.